my main goals for this winter is I don't want to buy any new yarn. Such a delight to work on. Look at these beautiful cables. I love her. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Hi, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel, Jamie Sage Knits. Today I'll be sharing my winter 2025 knitting plans as well as some pattern inspiration. I'll talk a little bit about the patterns that I finished in the fall season, kind of comparing and contrasting my plans versus what actually happened. I've been enjoying doing that for my last few seasonal knitting recaps. Then I'll talk about the patterns that personally I am planning or hoping to make this winter, as well as highlighting some patterns, especially recently released patterns that I would love to make if I had time, but I just don't think it's in the cards for me this season. But I wanted to share them with you all in case it is nice to have some inspiration. Also, I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm a little sick and I feel like I'm a little flustered, so bear with me, but I really wanted to film this today and get this posted as we're heading quite soon into the winter season. And personally, I think of winter as kind of like the latter part of December and then January, February, maybe early March. And then by the end of March, I like to transition into spring knitting. So we have this solid kind of 3-month period where there's a little bit of holiday vibes and then just kind of getting us through the dreary winter months. So with that, let's dive in. I'll talk about what I'm wearing a little bit later on since it is one of my fall 2025 finished items. And is there anything else? I don't think so. Definitely let me know in the comments if you are knitting any of the same items that I have planned this season, or if not, what are you most excited to knit this season? Feel free to thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel to support my videos. Let me know that you are enjoying what I'm putting out there. Personally, I really love getting to share my passion for knitting with the community. I love watching other people's videos as well, so I really appreciate everyone who watches and engages with my videos and my love for knitting as well. So with that, let's quickly recap my fall 2025 knitting. So the first thing that I finished up this fall was my square neck camisole. This is by Helene Beba, and I knit this up in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color, I believe, Dusty Teal, and I absolutely love this. I got some wear out of this in the early fall when it was still warm, and then I also have worn it under like a cardigan or something like that, so I really love this. I think the next thing I finished was my Ingrid sweater, which I wore to Rhinebeck. This is by Petite Knit, and I knit this in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Worsted in the color Haze Heather. This one was like my main knit for September, and I knew that it had to be in my plans because I was doing a buddy knit with a friend. We were matching at Rhinebeck, so this was a really fun textured knit and enjoyed that a lot as well. Next, this was, I believe, not in my plans, but my friend gifted me some yarn and I was like, what should I make with this? And I just got really excited and immediately wanted to make something. So I made an adapted Cumulus blouse. The original pattern's by Petite Knit, but I added in some color work. The motif is from the Rosie sweater by Le Knit, and my friend had gifted me laying yarns. I'll put it in the comment. It's like an alpaca, like a fluffy alpaca yarn, and then also Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Dusty Violet. And I adapted, obviously, the color work, and then I also adapted the sleeves to be more like bell sleeves rather than fitted. Really love this. So cozy and soft, and a really fun addition to my fall plans. I also have this sweater. There's a lot of Petite Knit in here. This is the caramel sweater. It's my second one, just like a beautiful classic turtleneck, and I definitely knew I wanted to work on this in the fall. I just had a dream of like this beautiful warm chocolate brown turtleneck, and it turned out really great. I used Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair and no waste wool, both in the color chocolate, and this is maybe my favorite project of the season. It was, not like, it's pretty basic and plain to knit, but I just love wearing it so much. I also finished what I'm wearing now. This is my Obsidian Slipover by Sophia Scottford, and I knit this up in yarn I bought at Rhinebeck from Fiber MacGyver, which was their Surrey silk and their sport weight Shanico, both in the color marine green, and I really love this. Actually, this is maybe actually my favorite knit of the fall. It was just like the yarn is so gorgeous. It feels amazing. It was really fun to knit up. And I had to do some gauge math for this, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So this is definitely one of my favorites of the season. And this was another one that I did not have planned, I don't think, but it was added to to the plans. And then I also recently finished my Salty Days sweater by Kutivikika. I knit this in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted in the color Blossom Heather, and I just recently blocked this, and it's looking nice and drapey. So I actually haven't worn this yet, and it's not the most wintry sweater, but hopefully I'll get a little wear out of it soon. And I had one more finished project, and here we're getting like a sneak preview that has not even been featured on my podcast. The last thing I finished and have not blocked are my Uterp socks by Sari Nordland. This is in Malabrigo Ultimate Sock in the color Pearl, and I knit these for my husband. They have this cable motif all the way up the front, and then a slip stitch heel, and this different cable motif on the back of the ankle. So I had started these last winter, paused them, and then I just finished them up, and we'll give them to him for Christmas. So very happy with these, gonna get those blocked soon. And then I also have a bunch of things that I either paused, like I was working on the Vanilla Light Top by Sari Nordland at the beginning of fall, and I just paused that, and I'll pick it up in the spring. And then I have a few items that were on my plans, or that I added into my plans that I started, and that I will carry into my winter knitting plans. So I will talk about those now. The first thing I want to talk about is, I don't think I've mentioned before, my husband actually learned to knit in order to knit a baby bear bonnet for our niece, which was so special. And he knit that in Malabrigo Arroyo in the color English Rose, which is this beautiful kind of tonal pink. And we had a bunch left over, so I decided to make her these little mitts. I don't know where the other one is. Oh, there it is. I'm making her these little mitts to match, but they're actually knit flat and then seamed. These, I use the pattern Baby and Toddler Mittens by Julie Taylor, which is super straightforward, but I just like to shut my brain off. And it was like a free pattern, so I was like, okay, might as well just follow the instructions. I have not seamed them yet, but all the knitting is done, and you can see it creates this like beautiful, slightly variegated appearance. So these have little ribbing at the bottom that will be folded up, and then this will be all seamed in, and there's no thumb, because I think when a baby's kind of young, it's hard to like get their thumb in the proper place, so it's just like a little mitt that goes over the hand, so I think those will be cute. They obviously have these long tails that I've left to seam them, and I'm very excited for that. And then there's still this ball left over, and so based on the weight, I think I have enough meterage to make a set of like fingerless gloves for my sister-in-law so that she can match with the baby. So I'm gonna make that, and then I will give these at Christmas in a few weeks. After I made the Uterp socks, I think when I previously talked about them, I was saying I'm not a sock person, I don't know, but for whatever reason, once I finished them, then I kind of enjoyed making socks. So after that, I immediately started working on these socks that are kind of self-drafted, but like heavily based upon the Uterp socks, just because I like the shaping and the fit of those. So this is 5 Burrow Yarns Classic Fingering in the color Dancing Dolphins. And it is so gorgeous. I already had this in my stash because these are like basically all my favorite colors. Like there's some bright pink, bright teal, pastel pink, pastel teal, and then also some like light purple and light blue. And so I had just bought this even though I didn't know what I was going to do with it, because I was like, this is all my favorite colors in a yarn. I'm obsessed with it. And then I was like, well, I want to make just plain stockinette socks, so this would be perfect. And they are so fun. They look kind of like cotton candy or like a psychedelic sunset. And you'll see I did the same like toe up shaping as the Uterp socks. I did a heel turn, a slip stitch heel, and then just a little bit of twisted rib at the top. And this worked up so fast, I cast it on the second one, I finished the toe increases, and now I'm working on the foot, and we'll just continue chipping away at this. And then I think these will be so fun to wear just like around, very colorful, and it is nice to work on this in the midst of the dreary winter. It's like very bright and fun color. So I am loving those. I am doing 62 stitches on 2.5 millimeter needles. Next up, I guess I'll just talk briefly about this. I've talked about it in my podcasts. This is the Dandelion Honey Cardigan by Ann Hansen. For this cardigan, they offer a V-neck or a scoop neck, short sleeve or 3/4 sleeve, and then cropped or tunic length. So personally, I'm planning to do the V-neck, 3/4 sleeve, and probably crop length. I'm not quite sure yet. The bust ranges from 33 to 68 inches with 2 to 6 inches of positive ease recommended. This was on my fall knitting plans and I did start it, but the pattern is kind of annoyingly written in my opinion. The increases are not written into the chart, so you have to like keep track for your own size of like where the increases go. And so that kind of annoyed me and I just didn't feel like continuing to work on it, but it's a very interesting construction where it's like worked sleeve up, like from cuff up in the round, and then the body of the cardigan is also worked from the bottom up, and then they're all joined at the underarm and then are like worked to the neck with a raglan seam. And I didn't realize that before I bought the pattern, and so it's just not a construction that I'm like the hugest fan of, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll continue to like chip away at this, and I do like the color of the yarn. I think it's really pretty. This is Bare Naked Wool's Kent Lace in the color Beach Glass. So it's this beautiful, like very cool toned, like light taupe. Yeah, so I think this is an interesting pattern. The lace is like it's not coming through like super clearly just yet, but you can see I'm almost done with the first like diamond lace motif. Then I talked in my podcast about how I started that and then I was like, I don't like how this pattern is written. So then I turned to another project I had planned, which is a champagne pullover by Sari Nordland. So the bust ranges from 37.5 to 69 inches with 8 inches of positive ease recommended. This is also lace as well as some cables. And this is like so clearly written, such a delight to work on. And so obviously I've been working away a lot more on this one. I'm using Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Marzipan, and then Soft Silk Mohair in the color Cloud. And you can see Marzipan is a bit more of this cool almond color, whereas Cloud is a little bit more peachy, and I really like how they even out to just this very like neutral cream. And like I said, the pattern is just so easy to follow. It has been such a delight to work on. The upper front and upper back were so quick. Now that I've joined in the round, it's a little bit slow going, but I definitely have made a lot of progress since I last showed it. I'm probably up to like 3 to 4 inches now down the body, and I'll just continue chipping away at it. I'm so excited to have this finished item. Is so beautiful. I probably will finish up this ball of mohair, which I'm getting kind of close, and then I will go up and work on the collar and the sleeves, and then I'll circle back to the body. So yeah, I'm absolutely loving this. Let me give you a little close-up. So gorgeous. And I bet this is gonna block out beautifully. Next up, I talked about starting this on my last podcast, and this has been probably the main project I've been working on recently. This is the Scarlet Cardigan by Petite Knit, and I'm working on this in the Neighborhood Fiber Co. Rustic Organic Fingering in the color Guilford, which is this obviously beautiful, vibrant pink. This pattern calls for a DK weight yarn on 3mm needles, so that'd be a very dense fabric, but I am actually using a fingering weight on 3.25mm needles to get pretty close to the gauge, and then I just sized one size up to get still the recommended fit. So this is the front, and then I have not joined in the round, but I've joined all the pieces. I have gotten already a couple inches down from the sleeve, and I'm really liking this. The finished bust of this pattern ranges from 41 to 66 inches with 10 inches of positive ease recommended. In any case, this will be one of my main whips going into the winter. And even though it's very bright, I'm excited to wear it in the winter and have it kind of brighten up my wardrobe. And then I have a couple of accessories that are works in progress. But in terms of garments, my Dandelion Honey cardigan, my Champagne pullover, and my Scarlet cardigan will be my main works in progress that I'm carrying into the winter. And I think that will honestly take up like a fair amount of my time. So most of the rest of my items that I'm thinking of are either like kind of smaller garments or accessories. And one of my major goals this season is to like use up my scrap yarn and my stash, because I have a lot of like single balls or like a couple balls left over from projects, and thus far I've kind of been either like using them occasionally or just being like, oh, I'll figure it out later, and just like buying new project quantities. And one of my main goals for this winter is I don't want to buy any new yarn, I want to really focus on using up my existing yarn, even if that means making accessories or making more scrappy projects than I usually would. And I can see if I can make it fit my own style, or I might gift it or donate it. But at this point, my stash is like pretty much full, and I just don't feel like it would be, you know, a good idea for me to buy more project quantities. I think it would be better to work on using my stash yarn. So the first example of that I have is I've heard that it's pronounced terpsichore scarf by Starry Nordland. Look at these beautiful cables. I love her. And so this is from her book, Softly Timeless Knits, which I own. And I am using Drops Lima in the color Navy and Utopia Surrey and Silk in the color Indigo. And this I had used like a little bit for a previous project, and then I had almost the entire thing left. So it's like, I need to use that for something. And I think this is like a decent match. I really like how it looks in the knitting. And this pattern calls for a fingering weight plus a mohair on, I think, 3.5 or 4 millimeter needles. But I was like, it's a scarf. It doesn't matter. So I'm just using thicker yarn, and I'm using 5 millimeter needles, I believe, instead. I was thinking of doing 5.5, but just based on the vibe, I feel like this will relax a lot during blocking, because this has some alpaca content. This is like an alpaca silk. So I think it will relax and become nice and drapey. And I do want it to be like a little bit on the denser side, just so it is a thicker fabric and keeps me warm. And I'm just really loving this. I am approaching the halfway point, and then it's like a triangle scarf, so it'll come out and then it'll just go back in decreases. And it can be worn, of course, as a kerchief or as a scarf around the neck, but it can also be worn as like a little hat. I don't know why. Obviously, that's going to look crazy. But yeah, I'm really excited to use this as a headscarf as well. Beanies tend to really smush my hair, and so I think having something that can be a little scarf or a little head wrap will be very much appreciated. And I absolutely love this. I think it's so beautiful. And it has been so fun to work on thus far. So loving that. Very successful scrap yarn project so far. And then my other scrap yarn project that I started is this random just brioche headband. There's like no pattern. It's just a little stripe of brioche. And I just started this yesterday and have been working it up. And this is using Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft in the color Like a Virgin. And this is such a soft and gorgeous yarn. This is super bulky, 53% merino and 47% mohair. And it is so soft, like not itchy at all. Really love this. And I'm knitting this on 8 millimeter needles. I'm just gonna make a brioche stripe and then just have it to like, you know, cover my ears. It'll be like this. Yeah, I think it'll just be like so plushy and warm and a nice neutral. And it's a little hard to estimate based on the yardage, but I might have enough to make 2, so then I could make one for a friend as well. Or I could make like little mitts for myself to go with it, or a little scarf or something. We will see if I have enough. But yeah, this has also been just like a fun, easy project I worked on it for like, I don't know, like 30 minutes yesterday, and then I'll continue chipping away at it. So yeah, that is everything I have started. Obviously that's a lot already, and then I do have several more things planned. I have a few garments planned, and we'll see if I get around to them. The first one, I am planning to make the Birkin Polo by Pendler Strick using Knitting for Olive in the color Dark Mousse. I actually had originally bought this to make the caramel sweater, and then it looked just really different in person compared to online. It's like a much cooler toned, which I think is fine. It's just not what I was envisioning for that. So I think this will be really beautiful for that project. That is probably going to be something that I have to chip away on. It's like all in rib. It's all on 3 millimeter needles. So we'll see how that goes. And the pattern finished bust ranges from 28 to 43 inches with probably a few inches of negative E is recommended. And I've never knit that type of collar shaping before, I don't think, so that should be pretty fun. And I probably should finish 1 or 2 things before I start that, but that probably will be the next thing that I cast on. I'm pretty excited for that one. I also have planned the Solstice Spencer by Mandy Julie. And for that, I'm planning to do, again, a little gauge math because that calls for a sport weight yarn, and I'm planning to use this fingering weight. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. This is the Neighborhood Fiber Co. Rustic Organic Fingering in the color Engine Company number 7. And this is just such a beautiful, vibrant red. Really excited for that one as well. And the sizing for that one ranges from 32.5 to 48 inches. So I think that will be really fun, and that will be probably next in my sequence if I get around to it. And then the last garment that I am considering is the Tonight Top by Lily Kate France. I was looking for something to make with this gorgeous Retrosaria Rosa Pomar Mondim yarn in the color Dusty Red that my friend got for me in Portugal. She got me 2 skeins, 2 balls. And I was doing a little research, and I am most likely going to make the Tonight Top. I like that. I can wear it as a vest, and then if the yarn is soft enough after blocking, I can also wear it alone as like a transitional piece in the fall or spring. And the sizing of this ranges to fit a bust of 28 to 62 inches with 1 to 3 inches of positive ease recommended. So that should be a fun one as well. All right, now we have a few accessories. The first one is I have exactly 1 ball each of the Mohair and the No Waste Wool in chocolate left over from my caramel sweater. So I'm thinking of making probably a beanie to go with that. Maybe the Vivian beanie by Sorry Inward Lens. That should be fun. And then I also have like a ball and a half of this Drops Alpaca in the color black, which is really soft and nice. I'm thinking of making like a Sophie scarf or something similar, or maybe something with lace like the Poet scarf. I definitely don't think anything with cables would be a good choice for this black alpaca yarn, but maybe a lace could be nice. I also might make another terpsichore scarf or something else with the leftover wool of the Andes worsted in the color Haze Heather for my Ingrid sweater, and then maybe the leftover Dusty Violet Mohair. I don't know if that will be a good color match, but I might try it out. And the last thing I have in mind, which obviously this is a lot, I do not know if all of this will get done over the winter, but it's just kind of my aspirations. Sorry for the sound. So this is some scrap yarn that I kind of grouped together, and you can see it's not like totally cohesive, but I think it's like somewhat thematic. So, and I will point out what all of these yarns are. With this, I'm thinking of making the Chapter Shawl by Lily Kate France, which is made to use 12, I think 20 gram like mini skeins from an advent calendar. But I think all of this yarn should add up to the same thing, but some of them will be used twice. So I'll just have to look at the details of the pattern and see if that will be feasible. But the color I have the most of is this Wool Through the Trees Mohair Merino in the color Hemlock, which is this gorgeous kind of deep green that I used to make my cognac sweater. And that sweater only used, I think, 230 grams, which is amazing. Very light sweater. And then I have over 70 grams left. So I would probably use this in like 3 or 4 of the motifs and like repeat it. So rather than using a 20 gram skein once, I would use this like almost 80 gram skein 4 times. This would be like the base color. I also have this Wandering Flock Fingering Singles in the color Mystic Violet, and I have, I think, almost 40 grams of this. I also have that same yarn, but in the color Terrace Bridge. I have enough for 2 portions of Illimani Sabri in the color Bone. I don't actually know if I have enough for 2 portions, but I would have at least 1 portion, maybe 2 of Plymouth Yarn Yakima in the color Teal. So beautiful. Malabrigo Ultimate Sock in the color Pearl. This is left over from my Euterpe socks. And then lastly, Neighborhood Fiber Co. Rustic Fingering in the color Edner Gardens, which is one of my favorite colors. So beautiful. So this would be my, I think it's nice. I don't know. I think it's a little chaotic, but I think it's a nice combination. And it would be really fun to work up. So we'll see how that goes. That, like I said, is everything that I would try to work on. I know it's a lot. We'll see how it goes. I also have some projects that I wanted to mention that I will not have time to work on for sure, but I think they're really nice, and I just wanted to share them with you in case they spark your interest. The first one is, I feel like there's been a trend of these color work mittens, obviously, but now like animals and stuff on the mittens, like the songbird mittens. So these ones are called the Snow Deer Mittens by Liselott Dawn. It's really cute color work with these deer, and it's knit in fingering weight on 3mm needles as an adult medium, and then you can change the size by changing the gauge, as I feel like is often the case with color work mittens. Also, colorwork accessories is the Fitzroy toque and cowl. This is, I think, a really fun Nordic star type colorwork. It has one size with an 11-inch circumference for the cowl and a 19-inch circumference for the hat, and it is knit up in worsted weight. And then this one, I don't know, I actually might try to make this one if I have time. I thought it was really cool. It's called the Floret Cowl by Pearl Soho, and this is a free pattern. It's an Aran weight on 4mm needles, and there are 7 sizes ranging from 21 to 70 inches, so like child and adult sizes, for the chest and arm circumference, with 0 to 7 inches of positive ease recommended. So I thought this was really cool. It's like an enclosed shawl, and I like the scallop detail on the edges, and it just looks like really fun. And I don't know how you would wear it with a jacket. Like, I don't know if that's in the cards, or I feel like it would make sense to make it like shorter in that case, but you could also, of course, wear it like as a transitional piece over something to give a bit of warmth in this region, but if you don't want to wear a coat. So I don't know, I thought this was really cute, and it reminds me of like a flower, probably why they call it floret. And I also wanted to include a couple of sock options. The first one is called the Mistletoe Socks by Knit and Wave. This is also a free pattern, and it's just simple socks with a colorwork detail on the cuff, and they're worked top down. And there are charts for 60, 64, 68, and 72 stitch sizes. And I love these cute little colorwork motifs, especially ones where it looks like there's a little bit of embroidery just to make it like 3D and more special. I thought that was really fun. And then also there are these other socks that are a bit more colorwork called the Vision Socks by TL Blaupause. And this is kind of like a geometric colorwork motif, and there are options for colorwork on the whole sock or just the section or like stripe near the cuff. I was a bit confused by the sizing for this. It seems like, to the best of my knowledge, translating to US sizes, it's like a kid size 13 to a woman size 9.5, which is kind of limited sizing, but that's what I interpreted. All right, now we have a few garments. First off, a couple of vests. The first vest or slipover is called the Patali slipover by Marie-Eve Wedge, and this is kind of a classic stockinette, but it has these interesting, like, kind of feminine details on the edges. It's worked in panels and then seamed, and it's a DK weight on 4mm needles, and the finished bust ranges from 30 to 70 inches with 0 to 4 inches of positive ease recommended. I also wanted to talk about the Changhua Baekja vest by Sedna Yang, and this is a beautiful floral colorwork V-neck vest. It is knit in light fingering weight on 3.5mm needles, and the sizes range from 36 to 57 inches. Something I noticed is that the total yarn requirement is listed in the description, but not broken out by main color versus contrasting color, which is a bit frustrating. The sample, which is knit in a size medium, does specify the main color versus contrast color, so you might have to like use that ratio, or maybe in the pattern the exact amounts are specified. I just wanted to note that because when I was looking through and seeing if I would want to make this and what yarn I might use, that threw me off a little bit, but yeah. The other Sassafras pullover by Andrea Gahn. This is a kind of classic drop shoulder, but it is worked up in a worsted weight, so it'd go by pretty quickly. It's on 4.5mm needles, and it has this turtleneck with quite chunky ribbing and a split hem with kind of tall ribbing there as well. So I really like that, and it has 2 fits, as most of Andrea Gahn's patterns do. One that's more feminine, one that's more masculine, as I understand it. And it fits a bust of 30 to 66 inches with 8 inches of positive ease included. Next up, this one I'm like such a fan of. This is the Ember Sweater by Guro Vag. I'm not sure. It is a really cool pullover with these snaps, I think, and collar, and it's knit up in a boucle yarn held with a light fingering yarn, worked top down with saddle shoulders, and then the double knit edges for the collar. And this has a finished bust of 39 to 52 inches with 6 inches of positive ease recommended. I don't know, like I said, I just think this is so cool. It looks like store-bought, and I would absolutely love to knit this in the future. I think it would be so fun and cozy. Next up we have the Charlotte Sweater or Dress by Dorothea Fissiers. And this is worsted weight on 4mm needles with all over 2x2 rib stitch with a raglan seam. I love a raglan, and a turtleneck as well. And the finished bust ranges from 36 to 67 inches with 6 inches of positive ease recommended. Obviously you can just stop early and make it a turtleneck sweater, or you can continue knitting, I think, and make it a dress. I'm not sure if there is shaping in there, but of course you could also add shaping if that's something you'd be interested in. And I really like this, especially the raglan with the ribbing all over. I think it looks really cozy and fun. I also wanted to talk about the Cutie Tee version 2 by Sophia Holk Peterson. And this is also a raglan. It has stranded color work with stripes. And I saw someone make a really cool scrap yarn version, so that's kind of something that piqued my interest. It looks really cool, and it's worked top down on 6mm needles, so I feel like it would work up pretty quickly. And the sizes range from extra small through 2XL. I also wanted to highlight a few other new release sweater patterns. So the first one is a colorwork yoke called the Color Compass Sweater by Lily Pearsall. And this is a DK weight on 4.5mm needles with a colorwork round yoke, but the motif continues onto the body and the upper arms after the split for the sleeves. Something I've seen is that when designers feel like they need to finish the motif before splitting for the sleeves, then the armpit is like too low and it just is not a good fit. So on this one, she hasn't limited the shaping and the construction by the colorwork motif. So the armpit is like at a normal place, and then the colorwork motif just continues. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And there also is apparently a resource to like help you decide what colors to use, which is really nice because often in a colorwork chart, it can be kind of confusing to like figure out what your colors will look like, or to just keep track of like what color you're using for each of them. So that sounds really nice. And the finished bust ranges from 35 to 65.5 inches. Lastly, I have 3 cable sweaters that are in some ways a little similar, but also have their differences, and I wanted to highlight all of them. The first one is called Let's Twist Again sweater by Katja Durberg or Popknit. I have to say she has so many followers on Instagram, but I hardly ever hear people talking about her patterns, and I don't know why. Like, they're so beautiful. I have made one of her patterns in the past and I really liked it, and she just makes such fun, colorful, like exciting patterns with somewhat interesting construction often. So this one is also an interesting construction. It has all over cables, including on a saddle shoulder and contiguous sleeves. And it uses a sport plus lace weight on 5mm needles for a kind of open gauge. It has these all over braided cables that are staggered to create like a more whimsical and playful look, as opposed to like when the cables are lined up, I feel like it just creates a more like classic or preppy look. And this fits a bust of 31.5 to 53.5 inches. I also wanted to mention the Philomena sweater by Gregoria Fibers. This also calls for a sport plus lace weight, but on 4mm needles. This incorporates some cables and also some texture. It also uses a saddle shoulder, and the finished bust ranges from 38.5 to 57 inches with 6 to 7.5 inches of positive ease recommended. Lastly, we have another one that I, at first glance at least, I thought was really similar. This is the Rosebud sweater by Cheryl Mokhtari. This one, though, is a worsted plus lace weight on 5mm needles, so a larger gauge. It includes braided and wishbone cables, and then the background is half fisherman's rib, and I believe it's a drop shoulder construction. And then the finished bust ranges from 36.5 to 66 inches with 7 inches of positive ease recommended. So those last 3 do have some similarities, but they also do have some differences in their gauge, the fibers used, and also just the details of the motifs, as well as the construction techniques. So yeah, I hope that you got some inspiration, whether it's from the projects that I'm planning to do or from some of these projects that I referenced that sadly I won't have time for, but I do think they're really gorgeous and would love to hear in the comments if any of you have already started working on them, made them in the past, or have plans to make them in the future. And that is where I'll wrap up for today. So again, please subscribe if you'd like to follow along with how it actually works out for me to make these patterns, and let me know what you are working on this winter. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.